Let's get started. Welcome to our talk. Nice to see so many known faces here and some unknowns as well. First of all, maybe let me introduce us to quickly. This is Vincent Petrie. He's leading the server development team at ownCloud and organizes all the tasks between the developers and does the releases and also a lot of concept work and things like that. My name is Patrick. I'm the product manager for the server at ownCloud, and therefore I'm a lot in discussions with customers. I'm listening closely to their problems and issues and try to find solutions to those, and thereby defining the strategy and also the roadmap. And Vincent and we work a lot together in planning the development sprints and also doing concept work and things like that. And today we have the pleasure to give you an update on the latest developments since the last conference, and also to give you an outlook on the things that are in the pipeline and also future topics we have in mind. Before we go into details, I'd like to give a short glimpse on one slide on the ownCloud product design for those who are not that familiar with ownCloud yet. ownCloud is a content collaboration platform. It contains of a server and different clients. We have a web interface and also clients for all desktop and mobile platforms, which are popular, so to say. And we based the past ownCloud product development and also the future one on the 5 pillars you see in the headline. And first of all is we design ownCloud in a frictionless way. That means we don't want to put hurdles on users. So users should be able and are able to do many things in self-service. That's goes in the direction, for example, of creating own sharing groups, or also users can even invite other users. That's the guest functionality, just to name a few. And all of this empowers users to have really fun working with the platform, and also not having to wait for administrators unlocking certain things, just doing things and creating things together. All this while IT stays under control. So all the actions in ownCloud are auditable, traceable. There's a huge audit log where you can trace all the actions. And there are also many restrictions that can be imposed by the administrator as a last line of defense. ownCloud has a strong focus on security, of course. There are many extensions that provide additional security topics or features, and also it's designed to integrate perfectly on any kinds of infrastructure. This goes in the direction of using LDAP for user management, for example, or SAML for single sign-on, and also many storages can be integrated to ownCloud. So this doesn't matter if there are storages inside your company network or outside. We can integrate them, we can modernize the infrastructure and offer a single point of access for users, and also provide a way to avoid shadow IT, as it's called. ownCloud is usually deployed as separate instances, and it's not that these instances are locked down entities for themselves. Through federation, it's possible that these instances communicate with each other and thereby build a worldwide decentralized network, so to say. So far, one last point, ownCloud is extensible. It's thanks to the app framework possible to add functionality via so-called apps. which is pretty easy and straightforward. These apps are distributed via the ownCloud marketplace, which I think is widely known in here. Okay. So yeah, let's start with the news. ownCloud Server 10.0.10 has just been released. I think announcements should just be published. It's around 11. I think 10:30 was the announcement time. So it's out there. You can have it. Woo! Yeah, very nice. It was a great team effort as always. And so last conference we were at version 10.03. So right now what we are going to do is to give you an update what happened since then till today with ownCloud 10.0.10.
So when people share with that user, they don't. Yeah. When you share with users with the same name, in the share autocomplete, you just see 3 times the same name, so you don't know who is who. So we added an additional field. You can select whether you want the user ID or the email address to be displayed behind it. Third point, for public link password enforcement, usually before you could already say I enforce a password for all public links, but sometimes you want only upload only links to be protected by password, but not the read-only ones. So we split the permissions for that. The template editor used to be bundled with ownCloud, and now we separated it. Now it's a separate app that you need to install from the marketplace. And we did a few improvements and also added new email templates because we have a few new email types in there. Yeah. There used to be a bug a long time ago that have messed up in very specific situations the file cache, some detached tree thing. And to make sure that this doesn't happen anymore, we developed a repair command that is attached to the file scan, which is able to reattach the detached tree from the file cache. This should not happen anymore, but the command is now here. Symphony Events, what is this? Basically, we have like a hooks framework in core. We used to call it hooks. Then we moved to use a Symphony Events or emitter listener. We added a lot of them so apps can make use of it. And one of the apps that uses most is the Auditing App. So the events are sent in situations like someone uploaded a file or someone shared something or unshared something, someone posted a comment. These are the types of events that are covered by this. Many people are writing their own theme apps, and there was this known problem that the integrity check wasn't happy. So now you can, in the config.php, say, please exclude this app from the integrity check, and also in cases where people wanted to patch their own cloud, you have the ability to exclude the patched file from the integrity check. Yeah, we also have performance improvements, so some indices have been added, and also there has been work to improve to reduce the number of database calls. For example, when you do an upload, e-tag propagation, size propagation, as far as I remember, has been optimized. Yeah. Then there's a new authentication middleware. That's something that has been built, inspired by the PAM authentication module. So there is something similar now in the core, The only app that's using it currently is the password policy app, and we will progressively port all of the authentication stuff to use that. So it basically enables it enables an app to put some pages after the login to force something like please set a display name or please set an email. And for the password policy, it forces the user to change the password when it has expired, for example. Yeah. Next one, new local user creation flow. When you use the users page, the administrator had to set a password for a user. You might not always want to do that. So now we switch the default. Now you can specify an email address instead of a password, and then it will send an email, and the user, it's like the password reset link. The user must set a password, an initial one. But there's an option to switch back to the old way where you set a password directly. HTTP API for search basically is an extension of the WebDAV report method we have. If you call this API, you can search through the files. This has been added, so desktop clients, mobile clients in the future will use that, so you will be able to search on clients as well. And Phoenix will also, when we add the search box, we will also use that. Improve reliability of uploads. This is about, in the web UI, we have chunked uploads. And now if some chunks are failing, it will just retry them until it works, because it has been observed in some environments. It might happen if you have a proxy that maybe you have a timeout or something, then it will just retry and the upload will go through. And the last item, Gdpr Compliance. Basically, you have a new setting where you can set a URL for the imprint and privacy policy with a description, and these links will appear in emails and in the web UI. And if you have a theme, you might need to edit the theme to add it. Yeah. Sharing, public link sharing improvement. There's a screenshot. The permissions have better descriptions. Now you can, when you create the public link share, you can set a personal note that will be attached to the email. You can also specify multiple recipients and send a copy to self. Yeah. For sharing, we reworked the notification system a little bit. The notification is usually, you know it from the bell icon on the top right. Not very used recently, but we will use it more in the future. This is now able to send emails. So this comes to the next topic about local shares. When you share with someone, there's a new mode that does not let the recipient automatically accept. By default, it's still on. It's called automatically accept. If you disable this, then every time you share with someone, the recipient will first receive a notification, bell icon, and email, where they can say, I accept or reject the email, the share, sorry. Additionally, maybe you know, sometimes you share something with people and they unshare from self, they say, I don't want this, or they delete it by mistake, and there was no possibility to get it back. And now, since ownCloud 10.08, I think, the user can go to the share with you section and see the rejected share, and they can accept it again. These two features, pending share and getting it back, that this belongs together.
So yeah, that was the server core part, so to say. And there's also, as I mentioned before, a huge ecosystem of extensions around the server. And the most notable changes around that you see on that slide. Let me walk you through that quickly. One very interesting thing is the end-to-end encryption extension, which is developed by a partner. And that's really a quite interesting thing in terms of security when storing sensitive information, for example. And it's also very easy to set up. So it's an ownCloud app. Basically, you install that with several clicks, and then you're good to go. And it enables users to define encrypted spaces within ownCloud. So That means you can just say for a folder, that folder is encrypted. And all the data you upload in that folder is encrypted via your browser with a JavaScript engine in the browser and is stored in an encrypted way on the server. So you make sure that nobody in between you and the recipient of the files can actually or have any way to access those files. And that works in a way that ownCloud stores and distributes the public keys and the private keys naturally reside at the user side. So you can either store them in the browser's local storage. That's the simple approach. But there's a way more sophisticated approach that's, I think, actually also pretty unique because you can use smart cards that contain the private keys to decrypt the actual files in the end. For that, there's also an extension available which is a standalone application on the desktop that talks to the smart card reader and to the smart card in the end. And then you can make sure that on the one hand, you have the ability to centrally create those smart cards and hand it out to your employees, for example. And also that private key never leaves the smart card. So that's pretty secure. And yeah, it's also the first time that ownCloud actually speaks with hardware. So it's a pretty interesting thing also from a technology point of view. Yeah, this is available via the marketplace. You can try that all the time. And I think we will do some more communication on that soon. Also, we released a new version of the password policy, a new major version. I think you maybe know that extension. It's usually tasked to require certain password strength, for example, like you need a certain amount of characters in a password. And we extended that for local users, meaning not the users coming from LDAP, but users you create locally in ownCloud. For those users, you can impose expiration policies for their passwords. For that, you can say, users have to change their password all 90 days or something like that. And you can also, prohibit that they use the passwords they used the last 5 times or something like that. That's the history part. Also, in terms of malware protection, we have something quite new. That's the ransomware protection extension. It's also an ownCloud app, which you can easily install. And yeah, we split that into 2 parts. That's one part is the prevention, and other part is the protection part. In terms of prevention, you maybe need to know that ransomware, I think it's pretty popular, the term. It's those crypto Trojans, maybe that's also a term for it. They basically, it's malware that encrypts your files and then demands a ransom, which you need to pay to get the decryption key. And for that, usually, or a large part of ransomware adds a certain file extension to a file when it encrypts it. And that app carries a blacklist with such file extensions and thereby prevents those being uploaded to ownCloud and still having the original files in ownCloud, which you can then just synchronize on a fresh machine again. Also, the protection part, that's for more sophisticated ransomware, consists of a scanner and a restoration mechanism. The scanner basically allows the admin to detect the point in time when such an attack occurred. And the restoration mechanism, on the other hand, allows to selectively roll back one user account to that point in time. So all the actions that have taken place since then will be reverted, and the original files are restored by that, so to say. And all that while the rest of the installation stays in full operation. Also, brute force attacks are a topic course. I think that's also quite common, like when attackers are trying to guess user passwords in an automated way, or dictionary attacks, things like that. For that, we also launched a new app that prevents brute force attacks simply by banning users or attackers that tried to log in unsuccessfully for a certain amount of attempts. That's also available, I think, since yesterday. And yeah, also in terms of integration, there are some new things. We support Microsoft OneDrive as an external storage. Also, Dropbox changed their API. They have a new version. Yeah, we followed up with that, and that's also possible again to use with ownCloud. And yeah, also in terms of LDAP, maybe you know, since ownCloud 10, we don't go directly to LDAP for user import, for example, but we sync the users in certain time intervals, and for those mechanisms, there is a lot has been invested in reliability and also in performance. Also, Object Store is gaining more and more attraction for its benefits in redundancy and scalability, for example. And yeah, as the markets are going to the S3 protocol, we also took that path and focus on that protocol solely. It means we had to deprecate the Swift, OpenStack Swift interface, and now fully focus on S3. For that, we have a new implementation from scratch that has just been released with server 1009. And it's, yeah, you have to know that the different object stores also have different capabilities in terms of the protocol capability support. So we test that against, for example, Scality and Ceph, just to name popular commercial as well as open source variants. And we also have a certification for Scality and are working on the certification for Ceph. That new implementation supersedes the current object store, that's how it's called, extension soon. Currently, it's still in a technology preview state, as it doesn't have all the capabilities that we want to have with S3. Yeah, currently it supports multi-bucket, which allows to upload files or to deal with files that are larger than 5 gigabytes. And also the S3 versioning is already supported. With future releases, we're going to add more capabilities, for example, like direct download, which allows you to, that a download does not have to go through ownCloud, but you can, as a user, directly download the file from the object store, which yeah, allows performance improvements. Okay, so that was the part until today, all the news, all the great shiny new features. From now on, we're looking in the future. We split that into 2 parts. First is things that will still come with ownCloud 10. So ownCloud 10 now is 1.5 years old and is still supported for another 1.5 years. But of course, we're also planning the new major version, ownCloud 11, which we want to introduce today or give some introduction to what it will carry. All the things we talk about in ownCloud 10 now will also be part of ownCloud 11, of course. And at the end, we will have some outlook into future topics. So this is rather near term. The next server versions, which are planned to be available this year. So we plan to add a new scope for collaborative tags. I think you all know that ownCloud has these tags which you can assign to files. You can use for filtering, for example. Tags can also have other purposes. Tags can, for example, be used for workflows or for access control via the file firewall, and also for document classification, which will be a topic these days. And for that, we want to provide a new scope. Currently, you have 3 visible, restricted, and the invisible tags. We want to add a new scope, which we call static tags. And these are tags that the admin can create and assign to some policy, say, for example, document retention, and offer those or provide those to users to just use them. So users can only assign and unassign them, but they can't alter the tags, which is currently possible with all the scopes that are available. Also, yeah, I mentioned it in the beginning, federation is one of the key pillars of ownCloud. It's a very important topic, and for that, we use the ownCloud mesh protocol or specification. For that, there's a new specification, the version 2 of that API proposed, and yeah, together with all the other vendors in that consortium, I'd say, yeah, we're keeping up with that, and yeah, trying to support that, yeah, with some new capabilities and also cleaning up the API. Also, an important point, mainly for collaborative editing, is that you can give edit permissions for single files, because currently, when you want to collaborate with some external, say for example via Collabora Online or via OnlyOffice, and you want to do that with some external who does not have ownCloud, you would send them a public link, but currently you can't do that for single files as there is no edit permission. You have to go the workaround to share a folder with edit permission, and then the user can, within that folder, collaboratively edit the file with you. We want to change that also for single files in terms of usability. Yeah, as Vincent mentioned, we have a new notification system or a reworked system, and there's some small part missing, meaning when we're dealing with lots of notifications, that means, like, for example, you share with a large group, then all those notifications will be generated while generating the share, which is undesirable as it can take a long time. We want to move those processes to the background. Yeah, for that, that can be handled in an efficient way and doesn't bother the user. Also, as I just explained, we have that new S3 object store implementation. And still some or many customers are running on file storage, and of course they want to go to object store. And one thing is that we offer ways to migrate between file storage and object store. Somebody's happy? Okay. Also, in terms of extensions, we have a lot in the pipeline. One thing is the WOPI, or Microsoft Office Online integration, which allows you to display and also to edit Office documents in the browser with the Microsoft editor that you also know from OneDrive, for example, and also to collaboratively edit these files. This is planned to become available very soon. Also, there's a talk from our dear colleague Thomas Müller on this. He developed that and will go into details. I think it's even today. Yeah. So more on that later. Also, document classification policy enforcement is some kind of a new area which we are exploring and conquering. That's about risk management when dealing with sensitive information. So, yeah, you want to make sure that certain information can be treated in a certain way. Like, for example, yeah, when information is confidential, you want to prevent that it leaves your company via ownCloud. So you want to prevent external sharing. I tried not to go too deep because, yeah, tomorrow I will introduce that at 3 p.m. In another talk. Also, full text search is something that will be available shortly. That's a server extension that allows to integrate an Elasticsearch server, which indexes the files that are available in ownCloud and thereby allows users to search within those files and yeah, actually find easier what you actually need. Together with the HTTP API for search, this is going to be a great usability boost because with future client versions, say for example in the mobile apps, users will be able to search through contents of files that are only on the server. And thereby, you don't need to have things locally available, but can find everything you need and then synchronize it. Also, auditing is a very important topic, as I mentioned in the beginning. We also have a new major release for that extension in the pipeline, which enables administrators to easier connect the logs with log analyzers like Splunk or the ELK stack, because it writes the log entries into separate fields, and those can then be very easily consumed by those analyzers. Yeah.
So I'm back. So you will probably hear a lot about Phoenix these days. So for those who just arrived, what is Phoenix? It's a new web front end. It's a rewrite of the web front end because the old one was written with jQuery and the code is less maintainable, and it's good to invest in new technologies and also get people enthusiastic about contributing. So please attend, if you are into JavaScript and JavaScript frameworks, please attend the workshop on Thursday. Yeah, here in the context of ownCloud 10, we are going to provide an app. Phoenix will be bundled as an app on the marketplace so people can try it out. But in the end, ultimately, it will be a separate project, a separate frontend that you can deploy on a separate server. And the current state of Phoenix is that you have a files web UI with almost all the files operation except upload. Upload is tricky. We will add it soon. Sharing will be added later, and trash bin versions activity. Yeah. And additionally, the gallery app will also be rewritten, also using Vue.js, and will also be rethought on the design point of view. Yeah. So this is how the current Phoenix looks like. So yeah. OpenID Connect. So previously, the clients would the clients as desktop clients could only authenticate using basic auth or SAML. But yeah, with basic auth you cannot identify clients uniquely, and SAML is not really designed for clients. It's more designed for web, and there were some issues with session expiration. So we moved forward, and then we developed the OAuth 2 app. So now we have three things: basic auth, SAML, OAuth 2. And in the future, we want to streamline all of this to be using only OpenID Connect. And OpenID Connect is based on OAuth 2. It also has the ability to provide information about the user's display name and everything. So we could use that. And if there are IDPs that support it, we could also tightly integrate with that. And even maybe in some case, remove the need for ownCloud to talk to LDAP directly. Yeah, and this is the new LDAP wizard. Who's familiar with the LDAP wizard? Who's frustrated with the current LDAP wizard? Okay, only three. Okay. There were complaints. Why is there no save button? Yes, we know. there are other issues with it. It's not convenient to use. And here, the wizard has been rethought. As you can see on the screenshot, the idea is after configuring the setup, you can search for a user that you know is in LDAP and then check all the attributes of this user. So you basically see the profile of the user. You can adjust the attributes, see if it matches. Then if it matches, you can search for another user and see if everything is well. You don't need to go to the users page back and forth to find out, have my users been imported? Did I use the proper attribute? So this is currently still in prototype phase. This is basically a mock-up. We will still work on this in the context of ownCloud 10. Then we have ownCloud 11. Was it you? Me? Ah. Okay, so so far what we plan for sharing 3.0, we already take 2 items, pending shares that has been mentioned, accepting shares, and then in the future we are considering unifying the links, so you don't have a private link and a local link, but the private link or public link, but it would only be a single link with an authorization token behind. So when you share it, people could then, if they don't have access, they could request access to the resource, and then you could get a notification and someone wants to access the link. Do you accept to share it with that? And then it would create the share automatically. Grouped link shares is basically when you create a link share and send it to multiple recipients, that it stays displayed as a group. So you can still, for each of the recipients you specified, you could revoke the token for each recipient individually. And expiration date for the user shares. Yeah, we have that for public links only. We will add it for user shares.
So yeah, in many discussions with customers and also with community, we found points in ownCloud which are not easy, which cause media disruptions, and that let me give you an example to make that more clear. For example, private links. Who of you knows what a private link is? Let's start with that one. That's not that many. Actually, a private link is pretty nice because it does not contain permissions. So it can be used to direct others to certain files within shared spaces. So let's work on this or that document together, and you point them, and the recipient will find that file within the hierarchy, and you can start collaborating. And as it doesn't contain permissions, or if it falls into the wrong hands, so to say, others can't use it because they need access via their user accounts. And that's one thing. If I send you, for example, a private link and you don't yet have access, then you would have to call me. Please share it with me. That's one thing. And that's what we call a media disruption, because you need to leave the platform to call the user or to contact them with some communication channel. Which is not nice, which we want to avoid. And for that, we have a very basic and easy approach, and that's what we call requests between users. It should work or will work in a way that, for example, for that private link use case, you will just have a button, request access, and the owner will get a notification and can then decide if they want to give you access, do that with one click, and it's shared with you. Easy like that. And this will also enable to cover other use cases where, for example, you need to ask for permission before you can do certain actions. That's, for example, transferring share ownership. When some collaborator leaves a project, for example, they can just ask, say, a new participant in the project, would you like to take over my files? And with that mechanism, the receiving user can accept, and files can be transferred afterwards. Yeah, and this also helps in other cases, for example, with impersonation, which is a help desk feature, so to say. The admin can log in as a certain user and see what the user sees and help them resolving some issues. In the current implementation, that's just one click and the admin is in there. And depending on the legislation of your country, you can or can't use that. For example, to be able to use it in Germany, you would need to have such a request mechanism where the user to be impersonated allows you to impersonate them. And also there are some other use cases. For example, I want to work on a document, but you didn't give me right permission. So I can just request that, you give it to me, and we're good to go. Things like that, yeah. Okay, next one. That was you again.
Yeah, it's Phoenix again. Hi. But this time is in the context of ownCloud 11. So the goal is that to have Phoenix to become the new web interface. So we will try to we will look at all the features we have already in ownCloud and move them, re-implement them in Phoenix. We also have the opportunity to rethink the UI and the UX. Phoenix is a pure frontend, so it communicates with the backend via the APIs. The advantage on the developer side is also that we will not have private APIs anymore on the backend. So all the new features and existing features will have public APIs, which is also a benefit for all the clients, desktop client, mobile client. And a few more items we will need to port over: notifications, user management, and all the settings panel. And what did I do with? Some other things, PHP 7.3, from what I remember, will be stable at the end of the year, I think. So we were going to look into supporting it. I'm curious to see what incompatibilities there will be, but it's good to break with the past. Some improvements on the federated shares. Addressbook sync, sometimes the pairing of federated servers is not very straightforward. Not easy to understand, so we will have another look at this. More privacy options. There's a new feature, I think it will mention in the WAPI situation, is called manual file locking. So basically, on master for ownCloud 11, we have this. It's also known as check-in, check-out on WebDAV, where a user can say, I lock this file, then the user can work with the file, and when the user is done, unlock it. It means between when the file is locked, other people can only read it or not read it at all. It's a permanent lock, not the same as the current locking we have, which only survives a single request. The current locking we have is different because it's more like a database transaction. You don't open a database transaction in one request and close it in another one. That doesn't make sense. Okay, config PHP has a lot of options, and we're thinking about moving most of them to the database to make management easier, and also prevent ownCloud to actually write settings to the config PHP, because in many deployment scenarios you don't want that to be possible. No. There is a read-only flag for that, but yeah. Yeah, like Felix said, some work will be done on improving storage handling and performance, and also user management in general, thinking about more things like permissions and roles, which may be more flexible. Yeah. Then what do we do in the future, Patrick?
Thanks. These are now topics which we are not necessarily actively working on, but which we are gathering input, which we are in discussions with customers and also internally, which we are gathering ideas, working on concepts and things like that. And one topic which we find pretty important is exporting and importing data, as it opens many possibilities. Basically, yeah, you can imagine that, for example, you have one instance where some users are, and you have another one, and you want to merge them, for example, for having only one instance in the end. And then you can go there to the one instance and export a certain user. And then you get, say, an archive file containing all the data, the actual data, and also the metadata, meaning shares and comments and things like that. And yeah, you have that as one file, and take that to the other instance and import it, and yeah, thereby you transferred a user between those instances. And yeah, this mechanism will open up many other possibilities, like migration from other cloud services to ownCloud, for instance. Yeah, transferring, that's what I said. You could also use it for backup, because it's pretty easy to backup users selectively, for example. And also GDPR, these new regulations can require, or users can require you, based on that, to hand out all their data, so to say. And yeah, this will also provide a very easy mechanism for that you can just create such an archive and make it available to the user. So also in the area of administration, there are many things we plan for the future. Scaling is a very hot topic, and also geo-replication, like having, when a multinational corporation, for example, is using ownCloud, they have some instances in Asia, some in US, and some in Europe, for example. And of course, you want to have data available in a performant way everywhere, and that's what it's about. Part of that, I think, is covered with new storage considerations, which Jörn will show us in the workshop, as Felix mentioned, but still we have it on the future slide, as it's a very huge topic, and we want to do it in a good and in a right way. And yeah, that's not easy. That's still something we consider for the future. Also, maybe you know, we already have support for scanning uploaded files via the Clem AV virus scanner. That's nice, it works, it's cool. It has some limitations, and therefore there's demand to use, to be able to use actual enterprise virus scanners, and that would be possible via the ICAP interface, which we are thinking about implementing. For example, you could use then Kaspersky or Trend Micro or similar virus scanners. Also, monitoring is a huge topic for many customers. There are many possibilities already available via log files, for example, and also via some API queries. But yeah, in the future we would like to offer an API, SNMP API, to query for such information directly from ownCloud, and also to have a user interface with visualizations and dashboards and things like that. Yeah, to really ensure that your instance is healthy, and yeah, that you know when you need new storage or things like that. Another topic is the ability for clients to be able to report when they have some issues. For example, say you have a checksum mismatch at some user, and because of that, the client doesn't operate correctly anymore. Then it would be nice that when the admin could just know that. And the admin usually only has control over the server. So we want to offer that API for that the client can tell the server about such issues, and the server can have that in the log file, and enables administrators to proactively approach a user where they know that there's something wrong with syncing, for example. And also, in terms of compliance, clients could report that they have synced certain files, and you have proof that a user had those files with them when they were on the plane, for example. Also, workflows are a huge topic. We have many features available, say around the workflow app itself that provides document retention, or the file firewall, which you can control access with, document classification, which I will introduce tomorrow. And all of these have their own configuration interface. They can be used interoperably via tags, but you don't have a unique interface where you can define such workflows. And that's what we want to change in the future. We want to add, say, a workflow manager, which is based on APIs. So the server can provide certain functionalities, and then you have a nice configuration interface where you can easily construct such workflows. Okay, I think I need to speed up a little bit, and we're almost through. In terms of user experience, we want to make ownCloud a real-time platform. So for that, currently, you know, when you get a share, for example, you won't notice it until you refresh the page. So that could be more real-time for that notification and things like that appear instantly. Also, we want the user to be in control. For that, we already added functionality that users can see reshares of their files. So if I own a file and share it and you share it with somebody else, I can see that. For public links, this is still missing. We want to change it in the future. Also, a similar topic is with sharing. When I share a folder with you, then you don't, when you're in the folder, you don't see the permissions, and you can't have different permissions within that share. So we want to provide more flexibility by adding different permissions within a share. And also we're investigating ways how you can come away from file hierarchies and rather go into a direction of dynamic views, things to be able to realize things like project rooms and things like that. Also integrating groupware or chat and video systems is something we're thinking about. We have the clear opinion that we don't want to reinvent the wheel and build that ourselves. It's rather we want to define integration points where it actually makes sense to have a chat or to see each other via video stream. And via these integration points, make use of other professional software, like, for example, Jitsi or Rocket Chat, which we're using internally a lot. And collaborate with those. Also, in terms of groupware, Kobano's here. They will do a great talk, I think, and see how we can unify our solutions.
Thank you. Talking about schedule, before going into detail, I want to mention we are planning to switch to Semware by the end of the year, which means the second digit, the major version, the minor digit of the version number will not be a major version anymore. So we will have it like every other project has. And additionally to this, we are internally working with sprints and trying to be more agile. The ultimate goal is to be able to release more often as needed instead of at fixed dates like here, but we're still doing the transition. So here, we released 10.0.10 today. By the end of November, we are aiming for releasing 10.0.11. By the end of the year, 10.1, which would be in the same range like 10.0, but with Semware. So it's basically 10.1 is basically the 10.0.12. And support is until 2020 for ownCloud 10 and ownCloud 11. We are going to do a beta by the end of the year. Maybe we could do an alpha earlier, we'll see. And 11 would be ready for production in May 2019. And additionally to that, we also have all the apps that we'll continue to work on that from in the marketplace. which are independent from server releases from time to time. So we need to do a core release to add some APIs, to tweak some things. Yeah, that's it from the schedule. Are there any questions? No? Then we will be available for questions anytime. Don't hesitate to talk to us. Thank you for your attention.